Hey everybody, welcome back to day 4 of the Elul New Light activation. Today we're going to talk about war. Spiritual war, really all war, because the nature of the world is basically a war. You might not like to hear that, but let me explain. So ultimately, the purpose for creation, according to authentic Kabbalah, Hasidus, the Torah, the blueprint for creation, is to transform darkness into light so that the light from the realm above creation and the highest levels of creation with pure divine light, no concealment at all, pure godliness, so that that light shines down here in this crazy physical world just as brightly as it does up in the highest realms and even beyond. So to do that, we need to make the vessels like we've been talking about, and that means to take darkness, to take separateness, to take challenge, to take concealment, to take confusion, to take overwhelm, to take frustration, to take anger, all that stuff, judgment, and to turn it into light. What does that mean? You have to know that everything that happens to you is by direct divine providence. Here's a big secret of Kabbalah. You want to remember this. You really want to wire this in. The world was not created as a solid. It wasn't created once and left to conduct itself on its own with some kind of supervision from above or without, whatever. The world is nothing but the active, present tense, being spoken now words of the Creator. Like I said in the live that we did on Friday, the secret of creation, the true nature of creation is nothing but divine speech. It's every letter is a channel for creative energy, God's energy. When God speaks, let there be, let there be, let there be, it brings things into actual being, meaning that we as humans are able to perceive them, that spiritual beings are able to perceive them. So all of creation is divine speech plus the perception of the observer. We need to know that. And again, the purpose for all of it, it says clear as crystal in the blueprint for creation. It is to transform the darkness, the apparent separation, the apparent judgment, the apparent, all of that, everything that we call darkness, into light, meaning to bring into it an awareness of divine purpose, of divine presence, of divine love, of divine power. I'm not saying it's always easy. If it weren't easy, it wouldn't be real darkness, right? So in the deepest concealment, to bring in that awareness that there is a purpose, that this is by divine providence, that nothing exists on its own. And this is, by the way, you want to become a master of healing, you want to become a master of manifestation and miracles. So one of the things you need to know is that nothing's solid, because it's all God speaking right now, right now, right now, right now, and in relationship with you. And the more you're conscious and aware of that, Ani Lidodi Vidodi Li, I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. The more you're intimately aware of that, the more you're committed to taking the initiator role in that love relationship, the more you're willing to look beyond your past, to look beyond your identity, to look beyond everything that's hiding that awareness. When you get triggered, especially, we all get triggered. Talk about that in a second. The more you're willing to do that proactively and out of a trust that has not been earned, just out of a commitment, I'm going to become a master of transformation. That's what I'm going to do this Elul. I'm going to become a master of seeking the divine, of seeking that intimate relationship with my beloved, hiding in everything, especially in the things that trigger me. So it starts, I think there's an expression in Hebrew, min hametzar karatika, anani b'merchavka. It's like the shofar, the ram's horn is narrow, where you blow and then it becomes very big. So from the tight places, from the constriction, I call out to God, and he answers me from a broad place. So we can take the initiator role, when we can be the one who decides to co-create, when we can be determined to find the truth in everything, to look deeper, to wake up, to find the deeper essence of everything, to find the purpose of everything, even if it doesn't feel good right away, to lean into the vision. You cannot change the past unless, there are certain ways that you can actually change the past, but not beyond the scope of today's conversation, but not by trying to change it. You can't go back. Oh, sorry, I see I forgot to make a banner. You can't go back and actually reverse the fact that you cheated on your diet before you show up again in the diet. You can't go back and change all the things about yourself you don't like before you can start to be the person you want to be. You can't go back and erase all the hurt in any relationship, including your relationship with yourself and including your relationship with the Creator. You can't go back and fix all of that before you're going to start to have the relationship you want. No, we're wired that way. Our identity is wired that way, to be stuck to the past and try to fix the past, because the past pulls us into our solid sense of self. That's part of the illusion. Nothing is solid. You want to look forward into the vision. You want to look forward into what you truly desire. You want to look forward into the future that you want to co-create without regard to what happened in the past. Your failures of the past, the frustrations of the past only stand in your way when you put them in your way. Yes, you might feel, the emotional pull of it, but it means nothing if you start to live from a vision. Your relationship with the Creator, and whatever role you have in that, whatever fears, whatever anger, whatever disappointment, whatever sadness you have in that, that's based in the past. You want to have a different relationship? As I said yesterday, quoting Milvado, Ani Ladodi Vidodi Li, I am to my beloved. I, the true me, get to choose to approach God as a lover, as a beloved. And then he answers me as a beloved. And the Rebbe says, don't wait. Don't wait to see the signs of it. Don't wait for the proof. Don't wait for something to happen. You choose. So I want to say, in relationship to that, about spiritual war, about the fact that everything is a war. So in prophecy, we live in prophetic times. I'm talking very fast. We live in prophetic times, and in our times, we see many of the signs that are in the blueprint, that are in the Torah, coming true before our eyes, signs of redemption that are literally written in black and white. There are many, many details about those, and it's fascinating, totally fascinating. But the idea is that now, because we're at the end of this process of the transforming of darkness to light, the deepest darkness is coming out, as well as the biggest potential. In the Garden of Eden, there were two trees, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. I said this before. The tree of knowledge, the tree of life was hidden with the inner, inside of the outer of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. When Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge after being commanded not to, at the urging of the snake, which is the energy of confusion and darkness, that is, the snake is the catalyst. The snake energy is the catalyst that causes all challenge in human beings. The snake got internalized as the will to rebel, as judgment, as shame, as anger, as that little voice that never stops blabbing about what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong. And that snake energy gets in the way of almost everything that we want to do, almost every relationship that we want to have. So we have to be wise to it. So the idea is that when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil got mixed up together with the voice of the snake, to constantly confuse. Is it a surprise that our world is more confusing than ever? No. It's the prophet Daniel says that at the end of time, at the end of this process that we are at now, that Yisbaro Vislavna Koletvarim, that all things will become clarified, the confusion will become clarified, and the foolish will not understand, the wise will understand. What does it mean that things become clarified? That evil will become very bolate, is a very pronounced, very obvious, and good likewise. So we'll see more separation, because this confusion, this intermingling of good and evil that was caused by the snake energy. So the good people are co-opted by bad ideas, believing that they're good, deceived by bad people, believing that they're good. This is all snake energy, and it has to be unwound now. And that's what's happening here. And the idea of prophecy also, I'll tell you a principle of prophecy, that any good positive prophecy must come true literally. Any prophecy from the Torah must come true literally. Why? If it's positive. Why? Because it's God's vision. The Creator has vision, it's going to happen. How it's going to happen, that's where the negative prophecies come in. Because sometimes, we don't move toward the light. Sometimes we meander in all kinds of other directions. It's the nature of the game. The purpose of creation is to transform darkness into light. There's plenty of darkness to transform, and most of it's very personal. Very personal. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be hard. Okay, so we're meandering around, getting confused about who we are, what's going on, what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's false, getting upset at ourselves, getting upset at others. And in the meantime, we need to move toward the destination. We need to move toward the goal, which is the divine vision to fulfill the world of heaven on earth, of divinity revealed, of souls revealed in the body, of beautiful, loving co-creativity. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. This is the new year that we want to bring in on Rosh Hashanah. So we need to become wise about what's going on and what our vision is. We need to align our vision, or we get to, if we want to, align our vision with God's vision. So when it comes to the negative prophecies, those do not have to come true literally, because they're only here in order to create an effect. Like you have a child, you love the child, you're like, do all your homework without me reminding you, and we're gonna go to the park, we're gonna go to the, I don't know, Disney, whatever it is, we're gonna have a boat ride on Sunday. And the child, has good intentions but doesn't do it. And then, the next time the parent okay, try again. And then if things happen day after day after day, which show that the child's not responsible, after a while, it's not going to be, I'll take you on a boat ride. It's going to be, do your homework, or you're going to go to your room, do your homework, or you won't go out at all and do your homework. So the idea of this negativity is simply because there are parts of us that are deeply essential and authentic. The ani, the I that we talked about on Friday, that true self that lies within our identity and beneath our identity. It's like this ocean of possibility that has to filter through our self-image, our traumas, our disappointments, our limiting beliefs. And so that limiting, constricting part of us sometimes needs to be, woken up. The inner part of you is already awake. But it says, Ani yeshena v'li bi'er, I'm sleeping in the gullus, in the exile, but my heart is awake. So that inner heart, that inner core of you is awake, but the rest of you, the rest of all of us, in many ways is asleep. The idea is to wake up, which is why the world is changing so rapidly. You can't look out the window, you can't walk out of your house and be asleep. I mean, you could be asleep in different ways, but you can't at least assume that the world has always been a certain way and it's always going to be a certain way. That illusion is gone for everyone. If you're waiting to go back to that, I suggest you stop waiting, because it's not coming back. We're not going back to the old sleepy ways. We're going to keep waking up. The thing is, as I said about prophecy, about the negative, about the positive vision, God's vision versus the negative prophecy, which is just a wake-up call. It's like a course correction. So the same with all of this, when we understand that we're fighting a spiritual war, and to do that, we need to understand a deeper reality. We need to look deeper. We need to activate that essential self. We need to make the first co-creative move. I am to my beloved, and then my beloved is to me. Don't wait for the proof. Don't wait. It's not about that anymore. Creation does not work that way. So when we realize that, we can start to fight the war. We can start to be warriors, spiritual warriors, and start to win the war on a spiritual level. And then wars do not have to take place on the physical level. Why is the world so full of wars? It's the nature of reality, transforming darkness into light. The thing is that when things come through a distorted filter, the personality, the culture, all the limiting beliefs that we're connected to as collective as well as individuals, we need a lot of waking up. We need to see the results of being asleep. We need to see the results of the snake energy. We've been too asleep and too bound for most of creation to be able to see that or do anything about it, but we're in different times now. We're in times when now we have, yes, we're still in exile, but we're also in the redemption process. The Rebbe, the Levter Rebbe, said countless times, we are the last generation of gullus, of exile, and the first generation of Geula, which means in each of us, in our world, we have gullus, exile manifesting big time, coming out to the surface, as the prophet Daniel says, that everything will be clarified, everything will become revealed, the confusion of the eating of the tree of knowledge, that veil of shame and fear and guilt and blame and judgment and confusion is able to be lifted now. We don't have to be subject to it anymore, but it's coming out together with all of the potential, all of the, the internet, perfect example of a connecting platform that could be used to share Torah as we're doing now, to share infinite connection and goodness and, you know, projects that we do together and love for each other. And it is used that way sometimes, and sometimes it's used for very much more negative things. So the idea is that everything is a fractal. This idea of spiritual war, it takes place in the macro, in the cosmos. It takes place across the globe, and it takes place in communities. It takes place between ideas, war between ideas and cultures. What's true, what's false, what works, what's sustainable, what's not, and it takes place in each of us as well. So you want to know how to practice, and this will be the fairy dust for this live for today. You want to practice looking deeper. First of all, practice awareness that when something happens, it's not because something's gone wrong, but because the world is being recreated at every instant by divine speech, propelled by divine desire and divine purpose, including you and including every single thing in your life. It says that everything comes from heaven other than the fear of heaven. In other words, other than what you do with your moral choices, what you choose to see, what you choose to say, what you choose to do, that's up to you when it comes to right and wrong. So when you understand that your life is being custom created now and now and now and now and now and now, or practice, allow for that, even if you don't fully believe it yet. And one of the ways that you can do this, and this is part of the fairy dust, is to look for what they call synchronicity. Look for when you're thinking something and you hear someone say it, or you have a word in your mind and a truck, you know, seated on the side of a truck that drives by. Look for God winking at you. Look for signs that there's that deeper reality is right here, right now, interacting with you, reaching out to you. Remember we said in the first, I don't know if you've been following the whole time, but in day one, we talked about how, and in day two also, talked about how the king is in the field, how God is standing with us in this month, in this hinge month where we rectify and complete the past and prepare and make vessels to receive a new future. So God is here, like basically, come on, I'm here, notice me. Ask me. I'm here to help you. Approach me. Don't wait for me. It's got to come from you. It's got to come from you. Rise up to your greatness. Rise up to your hands now. I'm here. I'm looking at you with so much love. That's what we want to train ourselves to be sensitive to and to notice. So that's part of the fairy dust. Notice when God is showing up in the synchronicities or in the solving of a problem, maybe even before you knew you had it. Or maybe the answers to prayers, whatever way it might be. So you're looking for that deeper reality. And you're knowing that everything that happens, because it's being created now and now and now in real time on behalf of your purpose and the cosmic divine purpose of everything, the transformation of darkness to light, so that the infinite light shines into this rectified world just as strongly as it does above creation. We can't even imagine that. Can you imagine a world where divine love and divine potential is everywhere? Where all of those powers and abilities that we dream of in a world of good, not a world of ego, a world of oneness where we have access to that, like the most amazing artists that can actually work with it. We can work with divine energies. We can think thoughts and make requests and align ourselves with those and watch them manifest in our lives. And that's only going to get more and more and more as we can be trusted with more and more and more. And that's really where we're at now. We're in the ultimate final, or at least part of the final stages of the training process, where we're aligning our consciousness, our hearts, our actions, our awareness, our beliefs, everything about us, our desires and our intentions with the divine plan. When that happens, we're winning the spiritual war, and there's no need for physical wars. And that's the bottom line of it all. I think I'm going to leave it at that. David, we're going to hear the shofar. David, if you want to pop in and blow that for us. Claudia is saying, not everybody wants to be awake. I realize not everybody wants to be awake. If you're here, you probably want to be awake, though, or at least you want to be awake. The fact is, a lot of people are still sleeping, which is why the world is going through so much intense change right now. That's why it's imperative to wake up. Essentially, in the inner essence of who we are already connected. On the outer surface, it's every man for himself. So the more we can connect to our own inner essential ani as well, the more we can connect to God and the divine plan, the more our own waking up will impact other people. Will it impact everybody in the same way? I'm sure not. But we're all in the same train, and the train is going to the same destination. We're just in different cars. So now, on behalf of waking up, let's hear the shofar, and just think about that idea that from the challenge, from the constriction, when we connect, when we look for God, when we look for the beloved, even when it doesn't feel so bright, that's when things expand and open and the miracles begin to flow. Okay, here's the shofar. Thanks. Okay, we're going to go. I'm going to go. I just want to quickly answer one question about synchronicity. Somebody asked if there's a Torah source for that 100 billion%. That is the idea that, as the Baal Shem Tov says, that everything that happens is everything that happens. Everything, even the falling of a leaf from a tree, is by specific divine providence. In Hebrew, it's called hashgacha pratit, or hashgacha pratis, depending on your accent. And that's because God, you think about it logically, if God is creating the world now, at every moment, every single thing in it, down to the tiniest quark of energy, cultures, nations, planets, solar systems, galaxies, everything is being created from nothing, from ayin, from infinite divine potential at every instant, with a total awareness and purpose, every single thing. So then, of course, everything is by divine providence. Everything that happens is being directed. There are many sources from this, but I'd like you to think of it logically, so it's not just an item of faith. If everything is God, and if God is bringing this world into being like a virtual reality that we can actually feel because we're physical beings, it's a virtual physical reality and a virtual spiritual reality, meaning it's all just an out projection of the essence of the Creator. So what does that mean? That means that there cannot be any accidents. There's nothing that's a solid. Even past and future are being created now. It's part of the game, part of the board, part of the backdrop for this war. You know, honestly, I was going to hang up. I was going to just end the broadcast, but I will say something else. I'm myself, I'm very attuned to and very deeply curious. Curious isn't the right word. Like deeply, passionately searching for what's going on in this world, not just on a spiritual level. Like I'm looking at agendas. I'm looking at conspiracies. I'm looking at narratives. I'm consume a tremendous amount of information. Because I guess I have a drive. It's why I love to learn and teach so deeply. I have a drive for a deeper truth. I have a drive to look deeper. I have a drive to be conscious. I have a drive to be awake. And there are a lot of parts of me that are not aligned with that drive. But I'm always, it pushes me, it pulls me forward. So I guess I want to say, sometimes I have to restrain myself. Like I don't speak about a lot of the things that I believe here because my main role is to be a spiritual teacher and a spiritual mentor, coach, etc. But I will say, train yourself to look deeper. Everything is a war. And there are many, many, many layers. It's not just, A versus B or, dark versus light isn't just like they're two entities battling it out. No, if that were the case, it would be pretty easy. There are layers and layers and layers of confusion and beliefs, and some belief systems that are most true, but then they're polluted by things that are not true. And, you know, ultimately the Torah is the pure truth because it's divine wisdom, the Torah on all its levels. But even the Torah, we need to work very hard to understand it. I mean, when it comes to the surface, you know, narrative, yes, those things, that's a core principle of the Torah. The stories of the conquest of Israel, the Egyptian slavery, it's just like it's not even like Reader's Digest. Like there's so much information missing. And some of that comes out in the deeper layers of the code that was given to Moses on Mount Sinai. The mystical Torah, the Kabbalah and the Chassidus, the deepest level that we have. But even that, you know, we can only understand as much as our mind can comprehend. So if you're a person who wants to wake up, and I'm assuming you are, or you wouldn't still be here listening, you gotta look deeper. You have to train yourself not to believe things that you don't believe the narratives, just don't believe them. There may be some truth, you know, here, and maybe some truth there, but there's a deeper truth everywhere. And there are a lot of people that have tried to get us to think the way they want us to think, because that's part of the war. And that's, I guess I just wanted to add that for today. Okay, lots of love to everybody. See you tomorrow. Take care.